What was normal in the 90s, but is rare or non-existent today. Being completely unreachable by anyone for an entire day or more with no one thinking that it was unusual or rude. Just sort of have it be your thing. If you're an outside cat, no one's worried if you're missing for a night or two. Home telephone and answering machine. Also with these, memorizing phone numbers. Yeah, I'm screwed if I need to call someone and my phone is dead with no way to charge it. My husband does not know my number. He knows his childhood family member numbers though, which is good. I know his, some of my friends, and all of my teenage/childhood important ones. One of my boyfriends from sophomore year tried to give me his number when I ran into him at his work. I still knew the number. I just didn't want to contact him again. But he doesn't know that. Landline home phones. And having to talk to your friend's parents for a couple minutes while you waited for your friend to come to the phone. Yes, the parents were always the gatekeeper. I remember calling girls and hoping their dad didn't answer. That anxiety just came flooding back. A pet Tamagotchi. God, the chores I did for that thing. This thread is sending me on a sad nostalgia trip. Pagers. I felt like the coolest person on earth when I got my little purple pager, must have been around 1999. I used to have one of those nice leather Franklin Covey planners. It let people know you meant business, lol. Every year I would order a new calendar for it. Other rarities for me are having a checkbook, buying magazines, watching the early morning news for weather and traffic, having books in the bathroom. Remembering to get the new calendar early so you could transfer all the important dates before the turn of the year. Taking your disposable camera to get developed, and having no idea if any of your pictures were even usable until you got the pictures back. I don't miss this, but I do miss the surprise. Oh yeah. I forgot I took a pic of that. The delayed surprise was nice. Also, taking a photo was one shot, no checks and reshoots. You got back to having fun. Pressing play and record at the same time. And then the button pops out while trying to get the song on the radio. All of your radio-taped mix cassettes have that incomplete song at the end of side B because you wanted it full, but there just wasn't quite enough tape. Talking to your friend's mom to see if they were home. And then saying to your friend, dude, your mom. Showing up at your friend's place unannounced. Now you gotta send a text 4 years in advance. My wife gripes all the time that stopping by unannounced has become so taboo. We lived in a neighborhood for 5 years or so, up until 2018, where that actually did happen at least weekly, Old Town Alexandria, VA, and it was such a refreshingly simple throwback. Maybe it's progressing through my 30s, or maybe it's the world we live in, but I feel like people have gotten a lot less casually social, if that makes sense. Everything is planned and Instagrammable and overwrought. I'm in my underwear, eating vanilla pudding straight from the tub. It's better for everyone if you give us a heads up. Landline phones. I have been rewatching Seinfeld, and half of the scenarios would not even work today, because of cell phones. It reminded me what a pain it was to coordinate with people, if anything went wrong. Horribly heavy CRT monitor screens. That time I busted the seam out of my pants attempting to move a 21 inches CRT. Coin arcades and malls. And the malls, I guess. I kinda miss arcades. One of the best nights of my life culminated in a drunken cross-city moped ride with a buddy to his friend's house. Turns out homie owned a 3-decker and made a living repairing arcade machines and used to work maintenance at my childhood arcade that closed a decade prior. This dude bought every single cabinet and had 4 floors including the basement wall-to-wall arcade cabinets, pinball machines, and even a full-size DDR. His entire house was 1 bedroom, 1 kitchen, 3 bathrooms, and a 4-story private arcade. Dude was a weird lil man, but fuck if that wasn't one epic night. Felt so surreal. Floppy disks. My parents had a file cabinet full of those things. I used to save cool Dragon Ball Z pictures off the internet on them for later viewing enjoyment lol. I grew up with 4 siblings, so I had to share everything. Having my own floppy disk when I was 9 years old, loaded with random pictures of cartoon characters, made me feel so mature and grown up. MTV playing music videos. I know it's not MTV, but hot damn do I miss some pop-up video on VH1. Using A/S/L as an online introduction. 18/F/CaliU? 20. Nice try, mate. Ashtrays in restaurants, bars, cars, and airliner seats. Smoking or non? I remember once when I was just a kid, my mom and I going into a restaurant, like a Big Boy or similar family restaurant, and the waitress asking smoking or non? We said non, and when she sat us down, she took the ashtray off the table. No different area of the restaurant, just no ashtray. I was like, that's not exactly what we meant by non. Walkmans. A printed list of family and friends' phone numbers stuck on the fridge. Parents leaving a $20 under a magnet on the fridge for pizza with the number of the restaurant they were eating at, your friend's parents down the block's number, and maybe your grandmother's landline as a last resort. There's still an old note taped to the inside of one of our cabinets that says Mommy, 3034X, Daddy, 3034X, that had been written out early on when my kids were little so that they could use the landlines we still had, later converted to IP phones for a few years before going away altogether, to call us in an emergency. Both boys have graduated now, but I keep the note in the cabinet because it makes me smile when I see it. Hotlines for the weather report, current time, and movie show times. Hello and welcome to Movie Phone. Please push the number of the movie you'd like to see. Beep / why don't you just tell me what movie you want to see? Calling from a payphone for a ride, but calling collect and saying your name is here, come get me to save the quarters. Back then I had a landline phone, camcorder, film camera, tube TV, VCR, dial-up internet, pager, and a newspaper subscription. All gone now. All in your pocket now. In your pocket in a single device with far more capability than all the devices put together. Insane how much it changed in 30 years. Basic knowledge of MS-DOS. People these days think when I open the command prompt and enter in a super basic command that I'm basically a hacker. Eavesdropping in on a telephone call, you had to cover the mouthpiece to make sure they wouldn't hear you breathing and laughing. Too late now, but you could unscrew the bottom part of the handset and remove the carbon mic to mute the phone. I just turned it upside down so the microphone was up above my head. Calling the movie theater or looking in the paper for movie times. But your annoying sister always talked right when the movie you wanted to see listed the times. Then you had to start all over again. Feeling like the future is bright and that things can only get better from here. 2001. Some terrorists gave America a bloody nose and we stabbed ourselves in the heart to stop the bleeding. I wish those of you who never knew the optimism of the 90s could go back and feel what it was like. Things weren't perfect, but everything felt like it was going in the right direction. Oh, for the days when the biggest news story is whether or not the president got a blowjob. Meeting people at the time and place you said you'd meet them when you made plans days or even weeks ago. You used to say, hey, let's hang out on Tuesday at 7 p.m. at downtown bar, and then without ever having to text or call again you'd both meet there. And no chance to cancel 10 minutes before. There were social and tangible consequences for no-show/being late. One thing that still truly bothers me is when you are at a place at the agreed upon time and you get a text that says on my way. White dog poo. Yep. Those high bone meal, calcium, dog foods. Several articles about it. So that's what caused it? All this time, I thought people had just left their dogs' poops out on the sidewalk long enough for it to dry out in the sun. Playing multiplayer video games with all of the players in the room together. We had some pretty heated N64 parties. GoldenEye and Mario Kart 64. Intense games were had. You haven't truly lived until you have fucked over your best friend in Mario Kart 64 by taking the Rainbow Row shortcut. Keeping a binder full of CDs in your car. My car CDs were stolen in 1998. I'm still pissed. I once left the door on my car unlocked and came back to find my car stereo gone but not my full 100-disc binder. The stereo had completely died 2 weeks prior and I just hadn't gotten around to swapping it out yet. I just laughed. Dial-up internet. Erdeeger. Hey, what was the guy from That One Thing? I don't know, me neither. Oh well. I don't miss people being confidently wrong all the time. The only reason we used to think older means wiser is because we didn't have the ability to fact-check them on the spot. I used to write 10-page letters to a girl I knew in Norway and she did the same for me back in the States. I'd get like one a month and it was so exciting to read them. People had to put so much thought into those letters before the internet. So probably that. I miss pen pals and genuine handwritten letters too. Blockbuster. Ren and Stimpy. Being told to get off the internet so someone could use their phone. Having a download of a big file, which was like 50 MB in those days, ruined because someone picked up the phone. America Online CDs in the mail 3 to 4 times a month. Calling every month to say you aren't pleased with the service, and getting comped full months for retention purposes. Now ISPs are just like Lolic because they know there are no other players in the game. Going to the mall to just hang out. I got an old-ass home movie of my friends and I just hanging at a mall. Sharing food. It was so much fun. Now the mall is a slog. When picking someone up from the airport, you could wait for them at their gate. Or dropping someone off, you could hang out with them until it was time to board. Also paid EVs that took quarters in the waiting areas. An in-flight movie that everyone watched. Yellow Pages. I got a phone book in my mailbox the other day. First one in years. It was about the size of a Goosebumps book. Remembering at least 4 important phone numbers. It's really important to have at least a few numbers memorized in case you're ever in trouble and you don't have your phone. Yeah, but equally lots of people don't answer calls from numbers they don't know. MapQuest and special stores that would print out directions for your road trip. A single-family home under $200,000. Giving a meeting point and a meeting time in case we get lost. We still do that in my family, because you never know. Being unreachable. The best feeling. Card catalogs to find books in a library. On that note, Sears catalogs. The Wish book was epic. Modem noises. A Discman plugged into a cassette tape with a wire to play music in your car. Telephone booths. Payphones in general. Every time I see a payphone, which isn't very often, I have to lift it and see if it works. It usually does not. Frown. Showing up at someone's house unannounced because you were in the neighborhood and wanted to say hi. A cousin of my mom just turned up at our house one day, just knocked on our door. He was from the Netherlands and we were in Australia, and she'd never met him before. No phone call or anything, just showed up and stayed with us for a couple of days. My mom's cousin from Italy did that to her family in the 80s. They didn't know he existed because his father had emigrated to the States before he was born. Imagine a 20-year-old showing up at your door one day and saying, "I'm Oresti's son, are you my uncle?" And just letting him in to stay with you for a month. Those red bars you would put across your car's steering wheel to prevent theft. The Club. Funny thing. Kias and Hyundais are 2 of the most stolen vehicles right now due to the same defect in how easy it is to get to the ignition. Both have been sued and will send free clubs to their customers as a remedy. Gas that was under $1, in the US. I still feel like I was in an alternate reality, but I remember. Wait for the bus without doing anything else than waiting. Reading the back of the shampoo bottle while pooping to pass the time. I've read tampon instructions numerous times many years ago. I'm male. For more videos, like and subscribe.